Sewakwé, sewakwé. Greetings, love, and respect for me to all of you listening, and a special shout out if you're making your way to or from the Great Law Recital in Tyendinaga. In this episode, we're visiting with Kawénnakon Bonnie Whitlow. Her name means in her words, and over the years, she's lived profoundly into that name through art and education, original language work. She's Mohawk from Six Nations, and some unexpected places too, like the world of disc golf. She's a little bit of a fanatic, and I think she's pulling me into that world as well. If you're joining via video, we are showing Bonnie's backwards throw that makes her either famous or notorious, I guess, in disc golf circles. Bonnie doesn't make a lot of noise about what she's done, but she's taken on big responsibilities and projects. She's supported Tuscarora language learning for 2 years, making weekly 3-hour border crossing trips. And she's been part of the rites of passage, cultural resurgence, and grassroots projects that bring language and land into everyday practice. And the PeaceMaker's journey as well, that a lot of people have been on and know. So she's also out there proposing and designing a disc golf course for Six Nations that carries Haudenosaunee teachings, creates space for play and movement and community. In this conversation, Bonnie shares how all these different paths are not separate. They run alongside each other and then weave together, and it shapes how she moves through the world. This episode is a real treat, and it's a long one because we got a lot to say. We're dipping our toes into video as well as audio, so check us out in little 15-minute increments on our YouTube channel. Yawa Goa, as always, to Indigenous Screen Office, Deyunki Wistagan Ha, for supporting these stories. I'm Sewakwé, and we're Yatinistaha Nedekarunya, the Auntie's Dandelion. Thanks for coming along, and now let's just go listen to your aunties.
Hey.
Here we are again. Look, we clean up real nice. Do you like my dandelion shirt that my mom got me?
Oh, look at you with the dandelions.
How are you feeling today?
Good.
Good.
I just made everybody mad in my accounting department because I'm bad at it.
You have other charms.
They always want me to do something different and get another format. And so then I think I learn it, and then I try it again and I'm still wrong. And then they still send it back to me, and I'm supposed to be done it by today.
Well, let's just start. Can you introduce yourself in Ganyageha and Johansa?
Haginyo. So Sego Sewakwé. Hello everyone. Kawénnakon my Ngwahue name is Kawénnakon. It means it's in her words. I'm Mohawk. Oswego Nidwegenu. I'm from Six Nations. Wakskarlewge. I'm Bear Clan. Got Istansolani. Luana Hudges Luwayats nearly I have one son. His name is Luana Hudges. Oh, my English name is Bonnie Whitlow. But my son doesn't have an English name, so that was one of my very cool assertions of sovereignty. We're not English, so why have English names? It's quite the colonial imposition. Was one of my really early on kind of, like I said, assertions of sovereignty. I actually gave him his last name as well. I found out the title lineage that we would follow through matrilineal, and I gave him that as his last name because I was trying to figure we wouldn't have a last name equivalency. And so his last name is Rastawan Zerlunta. I was like, we didn't always have just one name throughout our lives. And so I said to him, I was like, if you don't like Luana Hudges, and you don't think it describes you, I'm not the boss. It's your identity. It's your name. And if you want to change your name, when you become an adult, then that's your choice. And he said, he goes, no, but I changed my last name. And so he wants to change it back to Whitlow, which is our like colonial last name. And I'm like, oh, that backfired completely.
What does your name mean to you? And I want to get right to disc golf.
The last thing that I ever thought in a million years is that somebody would reach out to me for something like this, you know, like a culturally relevant kind of conversation. And you want to include disc golf. Kawénnakon means that it's in her words or her language. And it was a name that was given to me by a local family who are like heavily responsible for kind of like recruiting me and bringing me back. They called it taking me out of the fire, is what they said at one of these ceremonies that I went to. And they just pulled me back into cultural teachings and, you know, cultural revitalization work, and then which kind of led into language revitalization and teaching and I don't know, and art and, you know, PeaceMaker's journey and rites of passage.
In thinking about Kawénnakon, I mean, you are in the words. You're in and amongst the words from what I, you know, can see and what's been coming to me. The reason I, you know, besides disc golf, I can't say that very well. You keep coming up all over the place. You keep playing different characters in different kind of movies, visiting the Tuscaroras. And they said, Bonnie Whitlow helped us so much. She came down, helped us like every month or every week for months. You went down there to help them. And they just really went on and on about that. And I just felt like, you know, that's across the border, like 6 nations. It's like an hour and a half, right? But also across an international border. And to make that commitment and have that responsibility is really notable. And then you've been in the rite of passages on the complete other end of the Confederacy. And then in Akwesasne, right? And then so deeply involved in Ongwawanakon. I mean, you've been a board member. You went through Ongwawana, right? As
I
a
did,
student.
yeah. I was one of the early adopters of that again. Just like so many things, like my mom used to read me a book called Curious George when I was little. And she would just always I was her Curious George. I just like, but why? And I think I was probably a lot to handle. And I was busy for her, but she was an older mom at that point. My brothers and sisters had already, you know, like some of them were already leaving the house by the time I was, you know, 5 years old. And so she was a mature mom by that point. And so she had lots of patience for my curious and busy little interests and in everything. Like I'm just always interested, and I'll have a conversation with somebody and then suddenly I find myself, you know, traveling to their territories and going into ceremony with them and hanging out with them and learning from them and just like really engaging in stuff. And I'll do it for like, you know, like maybe 10 or 15 years and then I'll move on to the next thing. And, you know, or I'll do things like side by side and they kind of like overlap and kind of run on parallel paths and intertwine and become woven together. I have a lot of interests and I don't have TV. So I have a lot of time to pursue all kinds of different things and set easily. And I'm just constantly curious about the world.
Yeah, that's really obvious and notable and fun.
Like many children of my time, I've met many people who learned to read early, but it was because we watched Sesame Street, and Sesame Street taught us to read when we were like 3 and 4. And I just like stories, like I could never get enough stories. And I always really loved old people. And so my mom even tells me stories about just being out in public. And I was a little girl, and wherever we went, I saw somebody with white hair, and I called them all grandma and grandpa. And I went over and I sat with them and talked to them and listened to their stories. And it was just in my nature. And so stories, Kawénnakon, and doing all of that kind of work would just be a part of life. And I think you really do come to embody those names that are given to you in that way. And so, they saw that in me, and it's the name that their family chose. And I went to their longhouse and they gave me that name. And so, I prefer it. I like it when people learn my Ngwahongwe name, because it's not like John Smith. There's not 700 John Smiths. Kawénnakons, like we work hard to try and not duplicate names. It's difficult, but that's really important. And so we knew what it was to have a single name and no last name, much like Madonna and Cher, We know.
I love that comparison. Yeah. Enough said, right?
Yeah.
In your house, did you grow up with the language and with the traditions?
Yeah, I came back to it a bit later. And I think when I was really first, like when I was young, I'm going to say right around 1920-ish, that's when I started to like really engage with that stuff, with the cultural reclamation piece. And I would have said, if you had asked me that question then, I would have said, yeah, everything in my life was Canadian and Christianity and all of this stuff. And no, we didn't have that growing up. But upon, maturity and further reflection, I would say that it was a lot more there than I gave my parents credit for early on. So we didn't grow up in Longhouse because on both sides there was a turn towards Christianity, both the grandparents' ages, right? So not my mom and dad, but their parents both turned in that direction, and then it kind of traveled down through my mother and father from those decisions that those grandparents had made. The only time that I went to Longhouse would have been for a couple of marriages, weddings. And I can remember seriously looking around at everybody and going, what is this? But like never being able to engage back with it again. And then when I got a little bit older, there was a man in our community, Jake Thomas Guha, and he was doing Great Law Recitals at the time. I think I was like a teen, late teens. So I'm going to say like 16, 17, 18. And I went to those, and it was eye-opening, and it was really interesting, but there wasn't further engagement for me at that time. That didn't come until like 2021. And I was listening to my friend Gajit Juni talk while we were out at the Rites of Passage. And she was talking about how a lot of the artistic and material cultural practices kind of went to sleep for a while and were put away and kind of went underground, and they're all starting to be pulled back up and reawakened again, much along the lines of all the rest of the decolonization work that everybody's been doing. So I think I prefer that kind of expression for it, simply because I don't think it ever lost relevancy.
Yeah.
Like I think it was always relevant. It was just inaccessible at the time because we had this veil of colonization between us and our collective identities. And so it becomes it's there. It's underground, but it was just like sleeping.
The Great Law, when you first saw it and when Jake Thomas was doing it, that was coming back to the community at that time. That wasn't as common as it is even now, right?
There was like a lot of controversy about it because he was like recording it, and like there's this reluctance for using kind of methods to preserve things that are living, living and embodied engagement versus, written in stone types of situations. And so there was still that reluctance in the community. There was a bit of backlash and pushback against it. I don't even want to say that it's a closed-minded thing. It's understandable, and it's a rational fear.
Yeah.
Because so much was taken, so much was destroyed, so much was colonized, and people were trying to prevent that at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so because there has been so many kind of diabolical and malicious interactions with other people using that kinds of method or using those outside tools becomes like fear-based. That's like a learned kind of approach to scarcity, right? Is that you become fearful. And so we're all healing from that. We all have that intergenerational trauma that kind of interferes with all kinds of our evolution and growth. And so, like, everybody's trying to put that to the side and trying to empower themselves again using cultural practice. And so I can't really blame them for that because it makes so much sense. I mean, there's just been so much degradation and violation from the state, from the education system, from the legal system. Diminish all of our contributions while taking them, corrupting them, trying to replace them or place them in a Western context. And it just destroys all of the original intent. And I think you can't do that, right? And it just keeps happening over and over again. And I even have, like, I work in the institution and I really struggle all the time with that. Like, what is my place here? Am I a colonizer because I'm trying to help our students be successful in colonial institutions, right? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Is that a good thing to be doing? I mean,
it is an everyday thing. Like, I have to ask it every day. It's not like I come to the conclusion, it's like, it's such an ongoing conversation and always balancing that, because I mean, no matter where we are sitting in our houses, we're in colonized places, so we're so enveloped by it.
I just saw the eagle sticking out of the side of my head. And so I was trying to find a place where could I do this?
Well, yeah, that's good. And the other little eagle is nice. So what is this painting while we're talking about it?
That's Arnold Jacobs. He's famous. Two Turtles.
So beautiful.
Studio. His work is incredible. I bought one for myself. That was my graduation present to myself. And so it's two eagles who are kind of hunting and fishing along the river with the Hiawatha belt in the background. It's pretty gorgeous. And I bought another one for my son from his graduation from public school. And his is kind of a depiction of his name as well. So it has like the thunder beings, and it has them striking the ground with lightning, and it has like I don't even know what you're going to call those, but it has the faces in the waterfalls. It has the winds blowing in the background. It has the monstrous beasts trying to escape from the cliffside, and the thunder beings throwing lightning bolts to put them back under the ground. And so,
wow,
yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's kind of his name. And so,
whoa, that's a big, that's a big one to carry.
So he loves that. Yeah, but it came the way that our names are supposed to, right?
So going from the Great Law and Jake Thomas, and then coming up, how did that then evolve from hearing the Great Law? Was that for the first time? It seems like that a lot of people heard the Great
Yeah.
Law.
When Jake Thomas did that? Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the first time that information was being publicly made available to us. It was something that I didn't learn in school at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a pretty violent home. Not that my parents were violent, but my brothers were incredibly violent. My cousins were violent. We spoke violently to each other. We treated each other violently. And so when I started to hear people talk of peace, I was always like, oh, I really like that. What is that? I need more of that. And so for me, I couldn't understand a word, that he was saying. So to go back to an earlier conversation where you asked about where those things broke off for us and whether I was raised with that. My grandma Hayes was one of the last, I think, 10 speakers of Ganyot Geha in the community. When I was little, we would go over to her house and she would have like the Mohawk singers there. And so it was a bunch of women who sang hymns in Ganyot Geha, and they were always laughing and joking and talking to each other. But they would never speak to us. And so we have that piece of family lore where my dad was the oldest in the family, and he went to school like quite late. And when he went to school, he spoke Mohawk and backhanded and knocked right out of his chair. And so he went home and told his parents, and they told him to not speak Mohawk at school. And then the next year, his sister joined or went to school, and the same thing happened. She got beaten. And so there was like a family meeting, and they asked the children, what do you want us to do? And they said, don't speak Ganyot Geha to us. We want to speak English.
Gosh.
And so that was where we lost it on that side. And then on my mom's side, it was, coercion. She wanted to be a good person. They were taking her to church. In order to be a good person, you couldn't be a pagan. You couldn't you couldn't speak the language because, only stupid and bad people did that and not good Christians. And so that's where it was lost on that side, was that conversion to Christianity. And so I think that's pretty common, those are pretty common experiences. I've heard that story elsewhere. And so for us, that was where our language loss was. I mean, we grew up, we knew like basic commands, like go to bed and be quiet and sit down and come in and pass me that. And, just like maybe 40 or 50 words, and that was it. We know I could tell you like what farm animals were, or, like when we saw things growing, they would say like a word here and there, but it wasn't usable.
Yeah.
I didn't really find it in the way that I needed it to be in order to learn until I got to Kawénnakon, which was, like turn of the century. Turn of the century. Did you hear me say that?
You were one of the first classes, right? I know, turn of the century. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was like maybe third year of classes or something like that. It was early on. But I had a boyfriend at the time, and he happened to say, "Hey, you want to go to this like language class with me?" And I went there, and I was like, "Whoa. This is what I've been looking for my whole entire life." And so I just set everything aside. I gave up my job. I tell people about this all the time. I took a vow of poverty. I gave up my job. I gave up my car. I gave up my insurance for my car. I gave up everything. Like I gave up TV. That's when I gave up TV, and I never went back to TV after that. Everything. So that all I had was heat, hydro, rent, and I was making, I think, $150 a week was the stipend that they had. There's no way you could do it if you had a family or anything. And so I took a job at the local Greasy Spoon so that I could make enough money to pay my rent and I could walk to classes. And we were, because it was so hard. Like, I'm actually quite proud of the sacrifices that we made in those early days. It was not easy to find and it was not easy to do. And you just had to be absolutely determined in every sense of the word. Like, you're just going to do this thing and you're not going to look back. And so, it was worth it. It was worth every sacrifice, every moment of time. It changed my life so fully and completely. It changed the way that I look at the world. It became the filter, a new lens on my whole human experience. I just cannot say enough about the changes that it made in my entire life.
Yeah. Well, what's going on, Ajo? I know that journey. I know that poverty.
But also that's why, when other people said they wanted to help, it's like, what do you need?
Yes.
I can help you. I have that thing. Kawénnakon is busy. He's teaching here. If you want what he gave us, I'll show you. I'll show you everything. And so I just did. Like, they said they wanted it. I had the ability to help them with that. And isn't that what we're told? Like, if you have the ability to help somebody when they are asking for help, you go and help them. And I had it, like, I was young. I had energy coming out my ears.
You still have energy. Yeah. For people that haven't, been through such a profound language experience, it takes at least 4,000 to 5,000 hours to become just basically proficient in it. How do you explain that to someone that hasn't been through this massive experience? And why would you give up your car and your security, right, to do that?
Maybe in parts. So one of the things that they talk about at Kawénnakon is the evaluation process that they have for helping people understand how they move through the spectrum of fluency. So fluency isn't an either or, that it's this spectrum that starts with novice, it goes through intermediate, but also there's like intermediate, low, mid, high. And then there's advanced, low, mid, high, and there's like distinguished and superior. And so there's all of these levels of fluency that have these hallmarks to them. So they say, like, people who were doing the speeches early on who couldn't actually speak, but were just learning speeches, they didn't call them speakers. They called them speechers. They couldn't use language in any other context. They could only do the speech. And so the comparison to help people understand that is, if you had somebody doing a speech, like, so I was using like a cultural context. So an equivalent might be the Lord's Prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, blah, 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 blah. And so, if you looked at that person and you said, oh, how is your father doing? I heard whatever, that he got a new tractor and whatever. And they look at you and all they can say is, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, blah, 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 blah. So those are novice speakers, because even though they are saying a large section of words, they can't actually use those words in any other context. They can't create with language. They can't go off on tangents. They can only ever say exactly what they learned, how they learned it. And so they're kind of stuck. They're stuck in that space. It makes it easier later, after they've learned the Kawénnakon root word method, to go back in, take all of the vocabulary that they have worked so hard to accumulate, and then use all of those pieces later. But in early spaces, before they can create with language, they're considered novice, and then like they move up through the ranks. Say an intermediate mid-level, it actually just like their ability explodes again because of their rote memorization that they did. They actually can go back in and then use that language. So,
and that is such discovery too. Like after you've memorized something, to go back in and unpack that.
yeah,
That's such a exciting thing. I'm positive that your 40 or 50 words around the farm was such a great foundation for you, right?
Yeah. Well, I was certainly able to use them after that. And then I was able to understand some of the things that my dad was saying. That was like, Dad, that was kind of mean, yeah, that was not very polite. And so I had some later life realizations about the kind of messing around that my dad was doing. What was the other part of the question?
So it's the part of how does it change your life? Like I wouldn't, how does it change your brain? How does it change your perspective?
Somebody at some conference that I went to somewhere said something like, if you want to be a real warrior for the people, if you want to really rebel against the state, then do everything that they took away from us. So they wanted you to not speak your language, go and speak your language. They wanted you to not sing and dance your songs, then sing and dance your songs. They wanted you to not dress like Ungwahumwe, then you dress like Ungwahumwe. They wanted you to like not go to Longhouse and not be proud, then be proud. And probably the best thing that you can ever be is learn how to be happy again. And because so much of our practice and so much of our language talks about emotion, verbs. Emotions are verbs and not nouns. And because one language, like the colonial languages, are monosynthetic languages, so there's even like an isolation and a division within the way that they process in their minds versus polysynthetic languages, which are our languages, and how you have to have these whole entire complete thoughts and concepts settled before you even say them. Yeah. And so it's really like there's so many examples of philosophies that are embedded within words that you can unpack after you've learned the root word method and you've learned how to bridge between colonized language and our languages, that it's constantly illuminating your life and illuminating and changing you like on a cellular level, the way you interpret the world and the way you engage with it. And there's nothing like it. We need all of us working together to reconstruct those old ancient practices. And I am bound and determined to help in any way, shape, or form. And if I can do it, I'm going to do it. And you don't have to pay me for it. They can pay me for it, but you don't have to pay me for it. And so when the Tuscaroras were sitting there behind me and I could hear them saying, I want that. I want that. This is what we need. I want that. I'm like, I know that feeling. I know what it was to not have that. And so I just turned around and said, sure, I'll help you. What do you want? And so all it was, like, I still don't even think it's a big deal. Like, I can appreciate that they think it's a big deal, but I'm like, people did it for me, like, why wouldn't I do it for you? And so it was just driving over to Lewiston, crossing the Lewiston Bridge. And I would drive there once a week for like, about 8 months.
Oh,
it was good for me. Like it benefited me because I had to think about how to teach it. And in order to think about how to teach it, it increased my abilities, because you don't know if you actually know something until you try to teach somebody. And so, they'd be like giving me, they'd be like giving me gas money, and it would be like, $30 or $50 or, and it would
Oh
just
my
be like
God.
it would be like their coffee money. So sometimes I'd get like $10 in change and I'd have like a $20 bill and a $5 bill. And it was like, it was enough to, that was enough for me. They were giving me gas money and I got to meet them and hang out with them and I got to be in their community and, like it was like lifelong friendships. So,
Totally. I mean,
so,
they absolutely love you. They couldn't say enough about you.
aw.
Like, I feel so emotional. Dega Santos.
Aw.
I'm crying. I'm crying over here. I am. I mean, that dedication and to go every week and,
Yeah.
I mean, driving 1.5
I
hours.
was young.
You're,
I had
well,
energy.
there's another layer though of responsibility, like stepping into your responsibilities. And that's what I'm saying. It's like with your name, you're kind of in and amongst the words and you're kind of pushing them out and you're helping other people carry them. And it's just the most natural thing in the world. And in that way, it's such a model because there is so much shame around language. Like I felt it.
Yeah. So
I felt it almost every day,
that's
going
worth
through that.
talking about. That's worth taking a minute to talk about because of all of the intergenerational trauma, not just of residential schools people, but genocidal apocalypse. We have been going through it. We know what the apocalypse is. We have been living it for hundreds of years. And so we're pretty good at it. Like we know what it takes, but like all of that stuff, it has that trickle down, right? And so even as part of my journey and the things that I was looking for and the peacefulness that I was seeking, all of those things are part of it. And really the language does give it back to you because everything we do is talking about this is what was intended by the creator at the point of creation. This is the type of life that he intended us to live. And it was one of flourishing, not surviving, of flourishing, of abundance, of love, of support, of care. All of our teachings are like that. And even like some people, when they're talking about like ceremonies and stuff and, the sacred nature of it, I'm like, but also it's like a party, it's like we're having a good time.
It is.
We're having a great time. We are dancing about peace. We are singing about peace and thankfulness. We're having a good time. And so remember that you're having a good time. And even when they talked about, what clothing you wear, they say like, dress in your best for creator and creation. And it's like, I totally want to do that. I put on my makeup. I wear all my bling. I get all shiny and pretty. And I get to stand with all those beautiful people and dance beside them and listen to their words, like those words of encouragement. Like, come on. How much empowerment comes from those words of encouragement. When you can understand that and listen to what they're saying to you, that is just an outpouring of love and care from all of the different community members. Like, come on. Those are the teachings that just like, I always tell people, it's just like, I always feel like Iron Man. You know how Iron Man, like all of a sudden it just goes.
Oh yeah.
And then he
has
has this really cool like thing. This is what I feel like. And I've been telling people like this, and I'm like, I need some director, like say Gustoso Locuate, to do that. where I just like start walking in to the language class and all of a sudden this like really cool outfit shows up.
I love that. Well, and what occurs to me too is like in thinking about the way the abundance of that comes from all these reconnections and these relationships and responsibilities, the language is so abundant. And, just by the way it's all entangled and also the way that you can pull it apart and make a new word. And it seems like that's what elders just love to do, like sit around and have like double entendre words that they make up, and they're like
Constantly
laughing
double entendre.
constantly. You know, who else sits around and has so much deliciousness like embedded in their language?
Our philosophies are so focused and forward thinking that the only way that you can say empty is to say it's not full. So the assumption at the very beginning is that everything is full. There is enough of everything for everybody. My dissertation was really about Kawénnakon and what I wanted. And what I wanted was people to recognize that absolutely in every way, it is the most difficult thing that I've ever done. That the effort that it took dwarves, and I mean absolutely dwarves in every way, shape, and form, the effort and the education and the intelligence and anything that it took to get either of my other degrees. My other degrees are meaningless in every sense of the word. They did not do for me what it did for me learning my language. And I think now I would probably be categorized like I've lost some fluency because I haven't been speaking and I haven't been using it for the past 15 years because I've been at Laurier instead of teaching. But, man, people have no idea. And so every single person that has gotten to an intermediate mid-level is, in my view, far exceeding any PhD student out there, anybody with a PhD. That you have no idea. You just have no idea if you haven't tried to pick up one of these languages. Oh, which also kind of circles back again to part of the conversation that we didn't finish about the spectrum and the fluency, is that spectrum information, that fluency spectrum, was created by ACTIFIL, which is the American Council on Teaching Foreign Languages, which was created by the military in order to send people into different countries and have them have careers over in military spaces. And so they have also a scale of how long it should take a person to become fluent in different types of languages. And so in colonial languages that are close, like English and French or German and all of those languages, I think they said something like 1,100 hours and you're good. You know, it should take you 1,100 hours and you can acquire the competence that it takes in order to fulfill a professional position, a career position in one of those languages. And then there's other ones that are harder, and there's various levels, and they have them all. And ours is one that's in the toughest category to learn. Polysynthetic languages, because it takes so much intense study to become even vaguely proficient. And so recognizing that every single person that has taken it, you have really done something. You have really done something if that's your concentration. And so I just have such love and admiration for all of the people that I've met because of that. Anybody that's studying the language, I'm like, I like you. I love you. I love what you're doing because it's so important and you're going to completely change your life and you're going to be so empowered at the end of it. Having said that, I'm in the university and I know for some reason I'm there. So I mean, the universe wouldn't have me there if I wasn't supposed to be there. It's really just like cultural translation, in my opinion. It's helping people understand a different way of thinking and a different way of being, and even a different way of thinking about what education actually is. And so for us, education, like, because I'm in the system, so when I got there in the first place, I was what was called the Indigenous Student Support Coordinator. And at the time we had like maybe 30 or 40 self-identified students, Indigenous students. And, you know, it wasn't easy because so many times students would come to my office and they would just be overwhelmed and stressed out and just like in tears. And it wasn't just, you know, this course is hard, you know, which I think a lot of people might say, but it was because of the relentless violation and attack on their basic self-worth and identity, because everything was so negative. And there's just this feeling of intellectual superiority, an intellectual superiority complex that the university has, that
I
they
like
think
that word.
they are the epitome of all things intellectual philosophy. And
well, even this term professor, like I don't want my students to call me professor, because we're having a conversation and they're as much part of the conversation, right? It's like professing, it seems like it's like one way.
Yeah,
you know?
Elitist and hierarchical, and really all the things that are wrong with the world today.
Yeah, I agree. And bullet points, I always talk about bullet points are killing us. Like they're literally bullets.
There's a different way to think about education. And so I was asking a bunch of people, maybe for another project that I got involved in, because I'm always getting involved in projects. And I was asking people to describe education. And this word kept coming up over and over and over again. And it was Dehodigarlateta. And so I ended up starting like this language camp that I called Dehodigarlateta. And I've done these presentations, and I wrote in a kind of paper about Dehodigarlateta and what it means. And it says that it causes their eyes to sparkle and be bright and to shine. And I'm like, damn, isn't that telling? Isn't that telling that form of education that is, you know, the Western world thinks is great, is not just making our students cry. It is making, like, faculty members would come in to my office and they would all sit down and cry. And upper admin would come in and they would all sit down and cry. And so I started to call my chair in my office like the crying chair. It's like, oh God, I started to like hate when people were like knocking on my door, because in like 2 minutes they're just crying and crying.
Wow.
And yeah. So this isn't just harming and violating us. Everybody in there is harming, or is being harmed and violated, and is perpetuating harm and violence upon each other. And it's just like, there's just this ugliness to it. And it's the opposite of how we would describe what education is supposed to be. So there's this other piece of that talks about, there was a lot of discussion about gifts, you know, and how we are supposed to be, now that I'm like this old woman that sits before you, this matriarch, this powerful matriarch woman, we're supposed to be looking about our community and engaging with the youth and listening to the youth. And in listening with them, or to them, and having conversations with them, we're supposed to be watching out for gifts so that we can then help them nurture those gifts, and we can help their eyes to shine and sparkle. And so I think at the very base of what we're talking about, that's the foundational piece of information. And that is why we have a different view of what education is. Because the Western system is based on, have you ever seen Ken Robinson, what's his name? The Ken Robinson.
The British guy?
He's great. Yes. He's great.
Yes.
I highly recommend Sir Ken Robinson on education. And he talks about how the education system that we have today was based on creating good little workers for factories.
Yeah.
And that, that's why there's like alarms that ring and they go from this hour to that hour. And that's why that's why it's built the way that it is because it was never meant to engage people. It was to turn everybody into a worker. And so that's what we say when it's like, it's systemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that is the foundation of it, and then it's just been growing and perpetuating across time, then that's the goal that they're trying to create is more workers. And where we were, we were the opposite of that in every way. Ours was, we're supposed to look at each person individually and try and nurture those individual gifts and help them find what they needed in order to expand on whatever their interests were. And so if that means that the pedagogy and the curriculum would look completely different, right? It wouldn't be this big 600 seat classroom with everybody coming out saying the same thing and doing the same thing and behaving in the same way. It would be the opposite of that. It would be like six people in a classroom, 6 people to a teacher, and they would all come out differently, pursuing their own gifts and talents and learning how
with
to
their eyes,
and then bringing that
their eyes are shining
together.
Yeah.
To bring those gifts to the collective and to the earth and to empower one another by each working in a different facet, right? And so that's what we try and help people understand. And so what I always talk about to people too is when we learn things like when we do the Peacemaker's journey and we talk about the Guyana Legoa, it's the same there. Every single concept that is in there helps us decolonize our minds in such a powerful way. Like it makes so much sense to me that colonial and imperialistic powers that be would target those things because it's so individually empowering. And if your individuals are empowered and sovereign, then there's no way they're going to fall for it, right? They're not going to fall for that imperialistic crap. So in my opinion, every single teaching that you can pick up, every single word that you can pick up, every single practice that you can brush off and reawaken, all of those things together are the antidote to the ills of the Western world. It is the prescription for peace in every way, shape, and form. And that is what our ancestors fought so hard across all of these millennia to make sure that it reached our little ears when we got here and it was our turn to step up at that, right? That's what we're doing. We're taking our turn. It's our turn at bat. And so all of these things that we're picking up is going to help us.
Ooh, Yaraze. So beautiful.
But don't you get why? Like, don't you see it? Isn't it insidious? Isn't that why they're trying to take it away from us? Isn't that why they're trying to villainize us and turn us into like idiots and drunkards and fools? The power that's inside of that stuff that our ancestors carried across time as gifts to give to us in this present moment. Like, we have to be so grateful. And so like, we're just so lucky and we're just so fortunate because I always think when we were doing unity runs back in the day and we were going and we were running into all of the different First Nations community and we were just running behind those staffs, right? And we were just taking them in. And at that point I think I was at like my first or second year of language. We would get in there and we would set the staffs down for the night and we would put them to sleep so that we could go to sleep. What I noticed in so many of the communities that we were going into is they didn't have it. They didn't have it anymore because they had been so demoralized and they had been so colonized that all they had were like a few maybe artifacts on the wall. They didn't have their languages. They didn't have their practice. They didn't have their songs. They didn't have their dances. They didn't have the collective. They didn't have cultural centers. It was sad. They were lodida. They were like, they were lodida. And so it was hard to look at. And then I just had to be so thankful to be a member of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and to be able to have what survived across that millennia of colonization, that it was still there. It was underground. It was just sleeping.
And it's such a fire,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to go to even the rematriation conference and be part of that progression over, you know, 7 years leading up to the totality. There's so much fire there and so much understanding of like changing, learning our language, learning our ways. It's really
And it's
beautiful.
so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard, but it's so simple.
Anyway, we're humans that yesterday, I swear I'm going to get this disc golf in.
I still think it's hilarious that you want to talk about that.
I really do. I really, really do. Because, you know, it also is this thing. I just told so many people I played yesterday. Like, it was so much fun. You came to Toronto. We met your hilarious friends. Then we went over to Toronto Island and we played disc golf, which I've never played before. And it is this, you know, there's a little technical stuff involved and walking around and just the beauty of the day. And I loved where we could see the CN Tower, but you kind of had to like move the trees aside. We were just in this liminal world. It was so great. So, somehow for me, that ties into the rest of these conversations, you know, because it is this abundance and joy. It is this beauty and relationship and openness. And like, we deserve to play and we deserve to laugh. And at the same time, we're taking care of ourselves because I was explaining to Ted, you know, it's about like, you have to have a little balance, a little technique because you're throwing the disc. And then you're walking around in the natural world, you know? So tell me why this is so meaningful to you, because it's becoming very meaningful and I'm going on Amazon and ordering some discs.
I don't know how to segue this. I really don't.
I know.
No, it's just another, obsession. I'm as obsessed with it as a physical practice as I was with language as an intellectual practice, as I am with gratitude and the Ohandagaliwadekwa and, you know, dancing and singing as like spiritual practice.
To me, there is a connection, and it is something about you that I really have, you know, followed on Facebook for a long time.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing how incredibly addicted I am to this thing that I do. Maybe it's just the story of it. Like, I don't think most people know, because I have never talked about it really, that when I was a young woman, when I was a little girl, when I was a teenager, when I was like a young woman, I was an athlete, believe it or not. And I was obsessed with baseball back then. And I was obsessed with baseball because my mother had been obsessed with baseball, and because we had a baseball diamond in the backyard. And so I would watch baseball every night of the week. I would play baseball on the weekends, and I just loved it. And I had these older brothers, these ruffian older brothers, and I was always trying to keep up with them. And, you know, like, I think like many youngest children, you're always trying to keep up with older people and you're always playing with older people. And so you just like, athletics was just a part of it. And so my brothers were into lacrosse and my mom was into baseball, and we were always watching sports on television. Like, sports was always just a part of life, you know, like we were just always outside as well. And so I tell people, one of my favorite things to do as a little girl was I would go out front, I would go to the riverbank, and I would collect stones, and they all had to be about that big. They had to be the right size to fit into my hand, and I would collect mounds of them, like all the time. So I'd have like maybe 200 rocks that were about the right size, and I would pick a branch and I would just throw at it until I hit it 10 times.
Oh, now this explains everything.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I did. And that was fun for me. And this also kind of circles back again to the idea of gifts, right? Because everybody has certain gifts. And that actually was a gift of mine. And the way that you know, like, because people are always like, oh, how do you know what a gift is? What do you know,
Yeah.
what is my gift? And I'm always saying, where do you lose time? When do you do something that you're so engaged with it, like time passes and you don't even notice how much time you've spent doing it? That was me as a little girl. I would do that for hours and not even notice the time passing. And I just like to throw things. And and then, I got older, boys became interesting, and I kind of forgot about that little girl who used to like to go out, walk in the woods, collect stones, and throw them. And then COVID happened, and I had some rough years, and I gained a lot of weight, and I was unhappy, and like stuff happened. But during COVID, I didn't have anything to do, and I don't have TV, and I couldn't go anywhere. And so I just started going outside again, and I was taking my son to parks, and I was going up into town, and I was going to Mohawk Park. And I've been going there for a long time, and I've always seen people playing it, but I was like, oh, that's so nerdy. Who's doing, like, what are they even doing over there? That's just like weird
It's like
people.
hacky sacky. It's like the hacky sacky people. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, it's very unique. And so I went with my son, and I was like, do you want to go and try that? Because, like, how many times can you swing on the swing and, play on teeter-totters and things? Like, he was bored with going to the park too. And we went to Canadian Tire, and we grabbed Frisbees. It wasn't even discs. We just grabbed Frisbees. I got one for him and one for me, $10 or something, and came back, and we were trying to play disc golf. But I think people in the disc golf community, because there's nothing like the disc golf community. Let me just say that.
I experienced that yesterday. Yes.
Yeah. We are a unique bunch. And this guy came up, and he was like, oh, don't use those. And he said, here. And he just gave me and my son each a disc. And he said, don't use Frisbees. We use something called discs. Here, try this. You'll enjoy it more. And so we started playing. And then I think because people saw a single mom out with her son outside, they're like, oh, poor little single mom. And they just started giving us discs. So within about 3 months, we probably had like 20 discs, to the point where I was starting to say, no, that's okay. People have given us discs.
Wow.
Now. And then we're like, oh, now we have to take like a shopping bag with us to carry our discs. And
the extra gear is also amazing.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
and it was just waking up that little girl who had gone to sleep inside, and she reawakened, right? And so it was a way to kind of rehabilitate my health. I was doing it and not even noticing how long I was doing it. I was outside in the trees, smelling clean air, just being outside in the trees and throwing this disc. I also kind of compare it weirdly. Okay, this is where I get really weird. So you can cut this out. But
I think I probably won't.
I also compare it to like dogs who, like, with their owner, they throw a frisbee and the dog is all happy and goes and gets the disc and then brings it back to them. I'm like, I am throwing my own frisbee. I am running to get it and I'm throwing it again and I'm going to get it.
Fetching it.
I understand those puppy dogs now in a way that I never understood them before.
Oh my God.
So,
Well, and
okay, because this is really weird. Going like,
no, I love it. It's why I wanted to talk to you. Well, and all the other things. I said, because you're, you know, like the foundation of the Confederacy and all the weirdness as well. But now, I mean, I didn't know this throwing stones at trees, and that makes all the sense in the world. And so you not only have picked this up, you are like legendary in this community now.
well, you know, and it's just because of the weird way that I throw. And because I throw in such a weird way, it's remarkable to people who see it. You know, and also like disc golf. What did Sean say? I think he told me that disc golf is 93% white male.
Yes. Yeah.
And the rest of us make up that last little 7%. And I can count on one hand the people that I have met that are Indigenous that play this sport.
Yeah.
We're non-existent in it. And so I think that's a problem. And I think part of the problem comes from just the access. So people don't often know about like the experience of being one of these marginalized populations, having to engage at that level in that space and all of the harms that come along with it. And so you kind of have to be tough as nails just to like endure the microaggressions, because those are pretty constant, you know, and people don't realize it. And this is why we say it's systemic and it's not your fault because it's been programmed. It is systemic, but it's a part of, it's not like unique to disc golf in any way, shape or form. That's just a part of life in a colonized country. And so, but I think it's a barrier, and I think it's a huge barrier. And so I have actually, you know, like just had to like say, ooh, that's too much. You've gone too far. I don't think I'm going to be coming back to this space. And so I'm looking for safe spaces to play. And that element is just always going to be there. And so I was saying to people, Six Nations is known for the world-class athletes that it produces in all kinds of spaces. And actually, just like another piece of thread that we can weave into this little tapestry that we're kind of pulling together is I was at, I almost used the nickname that I used for her. I was at Mama Bear's house and she showed me a documentary that she was in. And I think it's called Red Feather. It might be, including it in every recommendation that I make about kind of curriculum and content and resources that I approve of. And there was a book that I read in the early 90s called Exiled in the Land of the Free. And it was an anthology. I still it's my go-to for so many things. But a lot of the content from that book is in this documentary. And there's this whole discussion of the Carlisle Indian School football team beating Harvard and Jim Thorpe and the kind of reason why there are so many teams who have like Indigenous mascots and names. It's like, it has a lot of other information in it. Sorry, that was a little carpenter ant.
I thought you were making a point. Like, get this book.
No. No, get the book. Totally get the book.
Yeah, get it.
It's probably like $1.99 on Amazon at this point because
Yeah.
it's so old, but it's I've been referring to it for forever. But it talks about the athleticism, and kind of the whole point that I'm making is that the world-class athleticism has been recognized on a worldwide scale through masketry, and like
Yeah.
Cleveland Indians and all of the rest of these
Wow.
things. It's a worthwhile watch.
Mhm.
But this sport that I'm in now is taking off, and there are these beautiful young men and women that I have crossed paths with. I think of Thomas Gilbert all the time. I'm just such a diehard fan. If he's within an hour of me and he's playing a tournament, I'm going to go follow along faithfully and cheer for him and just watch him be beautiful and wonderful and throw his discs. But I want that for our community. Not just boys, like little girls, and
Right.
like I want everybody, because it's a sport that anybody can do at any fitness level, and you can progress through it. And if it calls to you, and if you have that inner athlete that has fallen asleep for the past 20 years, and you're looking for that rehabilitative piece, then this is it, because it doesn't cost money. I mean, it can. And you see people get completely addicted. I'm trying to not be addicted to spending money, but you can play this practically for free.
Yeah.
If you have the baskets in the ground, and if we had a little library at the community center that could lend out discs to the youth, they could be playing this. And I want to create youth leagues, and I want to create children's leagues and teenagers leagues and women's leagues and men's leagues. I could run them until I had enough people helping me that they could take over and run them.
Yeah.
But my
Elder
whole point
leagues.
is that I want the community to get involved, because it's such easy access. You don't need a team. I mean, it can be played as a team. You don't need a card. You can go and play this by yourself. Not everybody is a team player, not everybody is into team sports. We're not just lacrosse and football and baseball, hockey. There's other things that people can do, and this is one of them. And so I had gone to the council, and they have set aside land. I think they gave us about 24 acres. So we have the band council resolution for that. And there was just massive, massive support to the extent that I didn't hear anybody speak negatively. Right. There was, however, a bunch of like a political quagmire that we kind of got stuck in for a while. It was like,
yeah.
Just give me a break.
Yeah, you're brave.
So doing
again.
community stuff, that happens. And I was like in a low point, man. I had run into a couple of blocks, and I just said, I'm just stepping away from this for a year. But I'm ready to come back to it. And it is just something that I do out of love, because I have a passion for it, similar to language, similar to ceremony, similar to academics, similar to writing and acting and all the painting. And, it's just one of those things that I'm just captured by, and I want other people to engage with it. And so how do I get them there?
Yeah. But you're also talking about including language in that as well, right? And teachings in the project. Yeah.
Because the space behind that they gave us is 3/4 of it is just big, open, empty space. And so when we first went at it, people didn't want to give us the money that we had set aside in the budget for the art installations pieces. The parallel that I drew was if we were going to create a golf course on the reserve, and we went in, and every single hole was exactly the same. It was just a big open space. There was no sand traps. There was no water to avoid. There was no dog leg left. There was no dog leg right. And it was just a big open space. It's like, how many people who play golf would want to play golf in a space like that or on a course like that? Nobody. That's a driving range. That's not a golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to recognize that. And so I have these ideas in my mind about really cool art installations, because part of my other side hustle and things that I've done in the past that people probably don't know, like one of my many things that I've gotten involved in are like art installations and art pieces and drawing. And my thought was that it would be really cool because I don't know if you know that one of my projects that I did was the art mural on the back of the community center.
Oh, I didn't know
probably
that.
didn't know that. You can Google it. I never created the mural. I created the project that resulted in the one mural in Six Nations and the one mural in Brantford. So what when I was back there looking at it, I was like, it would be really cool to use the ideas from our cultural iconography, the things like our wampum belts, the imagery that we're constantly doing, and use our language and embed all of those pieces into the course itself. So I had these thoughts and ideas about really easy ways to use cultural pieces that would then become educational and awareness raising and discussions of treaty and how easy it is in these days to create an app that would go along with it where it would point at it and they would be like, now I wonder what that imagery is. And they could point at it and you have somebody pop up and you can either direct it to a description of that actual art piece, or you can just bypass that description and go straight to something that's already online, like a discussion of one of our academics or scholars explaining the Turo Wampum or explaining longhouses or explaining archaeological recovery or something like that, but something that would allow them to understand why those art pieces were chosen, right? And then it would be a way to bring local artists in and work with them and create really cool collaborative installations and pieces that could then be used to bridge understanding even further and help people understand us even more. And so on top of that, I was like, and then how easy would it be for me to create disc golf lexicon where I teach people how to say smashing chains in Ganyot Geha, or say like throw a disc, or how to say Anheuser, or how to say Heiser, or all of those things. And then I could just say like, I could get like the local school children to say it in Ganyot Geha and to say it in Gayokono and say it in Tuscarora and just use it as like a really cool integrative experience that allows people to understand us just a little bit more. So those are things that like I haven't completely fleshed out. Like, I'm sorry, my brain just does that. Like my brain just does this.
It is so awesome. If I wasn't so poor from Ongwawanagunjokwa, I'd write you a check right now.
Yeah. So we costed it out. And when Parks and Rec, when I first went to them, they just loved the idea. And so then I was just going up to people say, do you know how to make a T-pad? What do I need? Do you know how to make that sign over there? What would I need to do that? It was really ridiculous. But again, like people like Mike at Christie Lake, I think he probably stopped wanting to talk to me because I just kept saying, do you know how to make that thing? And how much would it cost? And then there was
Oh my
this other
gosh.
guy, Oz. In the beginning, he was trying to help me. But again, I probably annoyed him with all of my thousands of questions. But the really cool thing is so many people like Craig and Josh and just all of these people just said like, yeah, we want to help you. Leah and Yvonne and Lynn, like they all just said like, we'll be there. What do you need us to do? Like they'd help us cut things down and build fences and, do all of the stuff. But I also ran across people who this is what they do for a living. And so I probably have to go back in and redo budgets and set things straight and update a lot of information. But we had it at about 100 I think the last time that we submitted, it was about 185,000, but that was with all volunteer help. I don't think I could make the recommendation the same way. Just such a big project that I think I would now recommend what we do is we hire somebody like, McKeegan, Kara, and her husband to and do it. Like they sent me like some information about what it would cost to do 9 holes, what it would cost to do 18 holes, what it would cost to do 27 holes. So I think I would make that recommendation going forward, and I would change the budget, but it would probably still be about $250,000 that we would need to raise in order to go through with this. And I know that there's some granting agencies that would probably help. And now I know this other guy who does consulting. I've worked with him a couple of times, and he does like grant writing and those types of things. So I did go back and talk to Six Nations Parks and Rec and say like, let's revisit where we left off and what can we do now. And so I'm kind of on hold because they're developing a new framework for projects like this that are posed by community members who aren't Six Nations Council employees. And that was one of the big hurdles because I wasn't an employee. There were so many restrictions and limits and things that I couldn't solve. It's like, just I know how to do it. Just let me do it.
Yeah.
They couldn't because I wasn't an employee. So I couldn't.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't be working on the inside. And so it was so frustrating. And I was like disappointed. I wasn't disappointed in Cheryl whatsoever. She was just a lovely person to work with. But we just kept running into all of the political quagmire that is our community. I'm me.
It wasn't
I'm like a dog with a bone. And so
I was going to say you're tenacious. Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
I like that you said tenacious. Thank you. Because that's much more. That's much more pleasant and positive than
a dog with a bone. Yeah.
Saying like, oh, you're so stubborn. I'll take tenacious. I'll take tenacious.
Yeah.
I'll
you
own
are
this
a
one.
sovereign Mohawk woman. What do you expect?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Ideas, and I'm always getting why can't I just have little ideas?
Well, it's interesting and fun. Yeah. Right. And then the way you embody it, like inviting me along yesterday, and we get to like the 8th hole, and I'm like, I'm positive. Like I wasn't asking. I didn't ask. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 9. It's going to be 9 holes. Right. And so as we get to the 9th hole, I'm like, do we get to go to the Pink Pony Club, cafe now? And they're like, oh, no, we're about halfway done.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. You're lucky we didn't stay for 27.
Have you played 27 holes?
Oh, without a doubt.
What?
Like most weekends are 2 rounds. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Like it's fun.
You're such a bad. It is fun.
Fun.
So I took 2 or maybe 3 holes just off just to kind of recover because I'm like, I peaked too soon.
Yeah.
And then jump back in because it is really an amazing sport. And I'm so excited for your plans and whatever I can do to help. I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but if you know people with big pockets and a love for our community and for our youth and for sports and for culture and for language and for art and for just all around fun, playfulness and delight, peace and eternal grooviness, send them my way. I got ideas.
You want that? Yeah. You want that?
I'm putting that into the universe.
Those
are the people.
Yeah.
Those are my peeps.
Yeah. Well, once again, I felt this way yesterday. Like, I'm breathing better because of this creativity. I feel like my eyes are, sparkling. You bring that envisioning and possibility, but not through what I love about the way that you operate is that you're not like on Facebook being like, I'm saving the Tuscarora language. You never do that. People do that.
Well, also because I was just like, I was like, I know what it feels like to want your language back. And so I don't want you to have to be stuck there. Like, I can help.
And you crossed an international border every week for 8 months.
For 2 years, actually.
For 2 years. Okay, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. And it is that responsibility, right? Like, and this is what I see. And it is like you were wondering how we were going to tie disc golf to all the rest of this stuff. But it is, that dedication to an idea, but also to people, to each other. And there was another place where I was thinking about that, where your name came up. Oh, it was because somebody, I think it was Seokla. Was she talking about the PeaceMaker's journey, or somebody was?
Getting involved in that changed my life, my whole entire life. It went from just being a story to concrete historical fact that these are the places where all of these things happen. We still know it. And the fact that Canada and the United States teach history as if it started when the Europeans arrived is insane and ridiculous, when we can still take all of our people to the places from our history, right? And still show them this is where all of these events happened. Right here, on this land, right
so
here.
You're like, walk in the land where the PeaceMaker walked, going to our communities. And it's embodied. Like that's pedagogy. So that
for sure.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's the real deal.
Real. Yeah. We're putting
nothing
together
abstract
for 2026. So get ready. Yeah. I talked to a couple of women that are going to come along and help me. We're going to do like a recon mission. We're going to go down to the Great Law Recital in Tyendinaga, and we're going to leave from there.
Yeah.
We're going to take about, 10 or 12 days just to like talk about what we're going to have happen next year in 2026.
Awesome. Oh my gosh.
Deal. Excuse me.
That is a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Yeah. It's a lot of planning. And again, it's just like, let's do it.
Tenacious.
Yeah.
Whew. It's powerful.
Good stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Like we have some pretty powerful women, right?
Oh, dang. Ezo gazat stansaragowa sa oyera. All right, lady. You rock.
Aginyo, nyawa. What kunulados?
Ganun kwa.
Yep, ganun kwa.
Take care.
Nyawa nagi.
Easy on. Ona.